Three, two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Inside Movies Galore. I am one of your hosts, but today we are continuing the journey that our good friend Dustin has brought to us as we are celebrating our 5 years of being online. So why don't you tell us, what is the second feature that you have had us watch this week, pal?
It is called Tentacles. I chose this film for the tentacles. It really makes me feel good. I don't know. Are you there, Dustin? What's going on? Oh, man. I think my internet went out.
Your mute is on, buddy.
All right. Well, pretty sure this movie came out in 1977. I don't know who directed it, but it was some Italian fellas, from what I've heard. It has John Huston in it, who is, the guy that did the voice of Gandalf in the animated Hobbit movie. And it's also got, what's her name? Jake Shirley Williams? Roseanne's mom is his sister, and she has one of the most luxuriously large straw hats I've ever experienced in my days on this earth. So if you watch this movie for anything, it should be for that straw hat. But I'll hand this back over to our host since he appears to be present.
Yeah, sorry about that. It says here on the back of my Kino Lorber Blu-ray that it was directed by Oliver Hellman, which doesn't particularly sound that Italian, but I know this is an Italian movie, so it's kind of odd.
Is he the same Hellman of the Hellman mayonnaise family? That's what I would like to know.
I do not know.
Well, I wonder if that's a pseudonym. IMDb lists the director as Ovidio G. Assonitis. Maybe more Italian.
I can understand
sounding.
him associating mayonnaise with Americans, so... Well played, my friend.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure who. Well, I'm assuming that the director is correct on the Kino, because that is a fairly recent release.
Yeah, that sounds more accurate than the mayonnaise fella.
I put what IMDb says, so.
It's basically a pretty blatant
actually,
IMDb
does have IMDb does have a trivia on it. It says that Oliver Hellman was his pseudonym that he used as the directing credit for this film, but he's also a producer, and his actual name, Ovidio Assonitis, is his producer credit on the film. So it's kind of weird.
They would do a lot of that to get around a lot of the filmmaker unions at the time, because, certain places, I mean, it was like the 70s or whatever, right? So they didn't exactly have like a photo internet database they could pull up on.
Yeah, it was filmed in 1977.
So you could just be like directing a movie and getting Actors Guild stuff and producing a movie and getting whatever benefits that come along from doing that independently. It's not unheard of. Fred Olen Ray would do it a lot. So it was produced by assorted Italian fellows under assorted aliases, much like many of the greatest crimes against, whatever. But I think that this crime against our taste is pretty well executed. It's really just a movie with a bunch of stock footage of an octopus, but used to great effect. Am I wrong?
There's a few scenes where they have their own like special effects octopus, but there's kind of a lot more stock footage in this than you would expect. Yeah,
and it's used surprisingly well. I'll give it that. Like,
there's a couple moments
like it's a big
funny,
octopus
but
when
it
I'm
works
watching
pretty
it.
good. Yeah. Well, anyway, I guess I'm gonna do like the proper introduction now that we've gotten stuff out of the way. So, This film is from 1977, and it's one of the initial members of the Jaws ripoff wave, where people just started pretty much remaking Jaws, but with different animals. And I think this is one of the better efforts out there, because the octopus is fairly menacing and the effects kind of work. I don't know. I like this movie. I have a good time with it. It's got a really cool soundtrack too. I enjoy the music a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it does some kind of daring things. Like, it has the octopus like eat a baby, like in like the first 10 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
The first victim.
the first no that films never take.
That piqued my curiosity. Go ahead, Dave.
The first no that you would normally expect would be an outrage by the public. Never kill a kid on screen, you know. But yeah, technically they don't really kill him. He just kind of disappears and like.
They don't really kill
that
him.
Baby being stripped to the bone several times in this film. So even though you don't,
you
see
his
like
baby
well
carriage sinking. So you expect that something happened to him, but they don't like seriously have you.
They don't have to show you like point B in full detail.
No,
you arrive to see, Dave.
I know.
Yeah, I don't want to see the fucking beak of that glorious kraken melon balling that kid to death. That's it's just not on my list of things to see.
It's like we see the carriage like on the beach, we hear the octopus attack music, and then we see the carriage like sinking underwater. I mean, it's
all fucked up too.
Pretty clear.
Well, in between, we have the woman not even looking back at her child, and her friend casually saying, "Oh, but isn't he supposed to be over there?"
Dude, I mean, like her whole dialogue too, because it's all dubbed over. She just sounds like she's talking to the baby like a crazy person. So it's like, I'm watching it and I'm like, I know I am actually on drugs, but I feel like I would feel like I was on drugs listening to this, even if I wasn't on drugs. It's one of those scenes where she's like, "Can you patty cake?" And then she's like, "Michael can click and clack," or whatever. Like she's trying to make her kid feel bad for not knowing how to patty cake, and then she just leaves him.
Patty shaming her kid, and then it gets eaten. She's going to have tremendous survivor guilt.
And the whole dialogue, because it's dubbed, sounds like something that aliens would make up, thinking that they were blending in as like a mother and their child, but it's like mother and their child talk like that, and there's several bits of that in this movie that make it hilarious when not too much is going on, but there's like a bad dub situation going on, so you're like, yes, this is right where I need to be, at least for me when I was watching it. Anyway, baby got eaten. Dustin.
Okay, I wasn't sure if everybody was done. But yeah, so this has a good number of like memorable things in it. I mean, so when I rewatched it today, it had been the first time I'd revisited it for a couple years, and to my surprise, the movie was actually like almost a half hour longer than I seem to remember it being. So there are quite a few lulls, but well, I guess I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. So my first experience with this movie was when I was starting to get interested in horror back in 2012, which I talk about sometimes. And at some point, like I heard about this movie, and it was actually kind of difficult to find. I couldn't find it on any streaming things. Eventually, it was like a download that I got from some really obscure place. This is before the Shout Factory Blu-ray, like way before it, I think. And I think what made it stand out in my mind is like that it was hard to see this initially. So I mean, I saw it, and although it's kind of just like your standard like monster movie, like it just stuck out in my mind, and I really like this movie. Some people, I guess, get bored by it, and after kind of seeing how much some scenes did drag, like I can kind of understand. But I enjoy the octopus attacks so much that, well, I really didn't mind. So, Moving
Well,
on.
there's an overlying reason for the boredom, even when stuff is happening too. It's got that dreamy '70s quality to it, where it feels like a TV movie you would watch when you have the flu. You know,
Exactly, and I think I actually did have the flu today, so it's like,
it worked. Yeah, I mean, certain movies really lend themselves to that. You know, if I saw this on cable, if I was homesick with the flu, it'd probably be one of my favorite movies. You know.
Exactly. But let's see, who should go next? Well, I guess we'll just go down the line again. How about you, Dave? First impressions?
Well, this isn't my first time with this film. I ended up picking this up on its double feature, the drive-in double movie double feature that you'll find along with Empire of the Ants, I believe, and I've had that copy ever since because I guess it varies like which like double features of those actually like goes out of print, like or comes back into style, you know.
It double features with Reptilicus, apparently, on the Shot Factory Blu-ray I have.
Okay. Reptilicus is another decent one.
It's fine.
But yeah, I remember the scenes of the octopus being actually relatively decent, since I know some octopus films like It Came From Beneath the Sea, from Ray Harryhausen's a decade. That one was pretty memorable, but this one, it's like my mind drew a blank before I watched this again, and then I remembered the baby scene and whatnot, and the way that they didn't show it was kind of unique. The way that they did it, where the bus just kind of just moved away, and the child was not there, and it had little bits of storyline. I thought it was meandering a bit, but it got and served its purpose, I believe, and I do enjoy the ski boating that goes on, and the whole big thing with like walkie talkies and radios, that they seem to emphasize that something was up with it, the radio waves or whatever, so I guess that's an interesting aspect of the film. But oh no, I like drive-in movies a lot. I like being able to picture myself like at a drive-in while I'm watching it, so it's a relatively decent film. So
yeah, I think the being driven insane by radio waves was kind of the premise for this video game that was supposed to come out back in the early 2000s called Soul Predator, where you would play as a shark. Eventually that game became Jaws Unleashed, which a lot of people really didn't like, but I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, if you're not up your own ass, it's a fun game. It's about as fun as a Jaws game can be, actually. It's also the premise, the radio waves making things go insane and affecting biology, sort of a deal in Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue, aka Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. If you guys ever get a chance to check that out, fuck with it for sure. There's a Blue Underground release that's real good, which is the one that I have, but there's probably a better one nowadays.
That's probably something I should kind of address. So there are 2 Blu-ray releases of this that I know of. There's the Shot Factory double feature with Reptilicus, which is out of print and I think was actually pretty expensive from the last time I looked. And from this summer, Kino Lorber put out their own brand new Blu-ray of this, and that's substantially easier to find. There seems to be relatively little difference actually between the 2 releases. I think the main thing with the Kino Lorber release is that it's its own disc. It's got a slipcover, and there's a trailer and a radio spot for it. Whereas I think I'm not even sure if there was a trailer on the Shout Factory disc. So this movie doesn't really have any extras that I've seen. So I don't know as much about it.
I mean, what would there really exist, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's
like, yeah, we made Jaws with an octopus, you know.
It would have been nice to have like an
Lots
interview
of
about
cocaine involved with this movie. I feel like there was it seemed like there was several people involved in the film that were probably there because of the drug supply that whoever was making this had going on. The psychedelic soundtrack only seems to reinforce that opinion. There's a couple of different hot girls here that very much have those vibes of being chicks that were involved because of the booger sugar, as they called it sometimes. And I'm glad for it. I mean, the movie benefits from that, but
yeah, anyway,
certainly a questionable affair, I think, when you really look at it. And yeah, just watch it unfold, denim shorts and all. It's
there is a lot of weird stuff in this movie for sure.
It is a strange beast, yeah. This Tentacles.
Yeah. So what was your first impression of this? So I think you're next in line.
Basically that, man. I mean, you know, I smoked 2 hefty hash-laced joints while I watched this film, and it was quite enjoyable. Like we talked about, it's sort of the perfect, like, at home from school sick sort of underwater monster movie. I think if I saw it in that context, I would probably have fallen deeply in love with the movie, even though altogether it's probably nothing too special. You know, it's really just a run-of-the-mill Jaws clone. I think I would rank Orca vastly above this one in terms of Jaws clones that actually did something cool. If you guys haven't seen Orca the Killer Whale, you definitely should at some point. It's fucking magnificent. But this is pretty fun, man. You know, I've always found octopus pretty strange and bewildering anyways, you know. So a movie like this really, probably because I was stoned, but also if I was like 10, would have gotten really into my subconscious of thinking about like octopuses pulling me down into the depths. There's some scenes in there I think would have been genuinely scary to me if I was a little kid seeing it the first time. But overall, I think it's a real fun movie. It's got that dreamy 70s vibe that I've alluded to a couple of times. It's got John Huston in there basically playing Gandalf as a fucking you know, newspaper reporter, which is pretty fantastic. That guy kind of made the whole movie for me. And then there's the hilarious bad dub of certain scenes on top of that lends it another element of entertainment value that I think it wouldn't have if it was an all-American cast or whatever. So it's got a lot of stuff going for it, this movie. Is it great? No. Is it even good by most people's standards? No, but I think there's a strong argument to be made for something that I call like perfectly, you know, mediocre entertainment or solidly 70s fucking films that you could just see at a drive-in, like Dave alluded to, and not feel bad about having spent a couple bucks to watch the movie. You know, not every movie has to blow your mind. It just has to be an enjoyable experience as it's happening. And this is kind of one of those movies for me. I was able to just kick back, relax, like enjoy this general monster movie without thinking too much. I could enjoy some classic old school like actors getting to, you know, chew up the fat of the scene for a minute sometimes, especially John Huston. That guy had plenty of great dialogue in the movie. So I came away pleased. If I had spent whatever you'd spend to attend a movie at a grindhouse and seen this back in the day, I probably would have been, you know, well pleased with my time and money well spent. So
that'd be a pretty good environment to see it in, yeah. How about moving on to you, Jake?
Well, this is definitely not one that I was familiar with. And I guess you could make the argument I've seen it twice now. I put it on twice. I probably watched the first half hour and bits and pieces of it the first go round. It put me to sleep. The second time I made sure to watch it again, and I made sure to be a little more awake. And this time I probably drifted for about 20 minutes in the very middle. I still don't know what happened to the biologist's wife, because both times I woke up right before she gets it. So I don't know what the circumstances were for that scene. But I think I got the rest of the movie. And I gotta say, yes, it was satisfying seeing John Huston chew the fat on a few scenes. Shelley Winters basically played Shelley Winters in just about every other movie I've seen her in, but she pretty much had better roles in every other movie I've seen her in. Henry Fonda was supposedly sick when he filmed this, and they made him be very rested and not strenuous and not overexert himself. And he pretty much, it's kind of the essence of a paycheck role from what I can tell for Henry Fonda. Everyone else was dubbed, including Cesare Danova apparently is fluent in English, and they still dubbed him. Go figure. And from what I understand, I think they filmed this in California. So it's like, well, you couldn't get more people to just, why do the dubbing thing? There's a lot about this film that could have caught my interest better or meant, but I'm gonna say the biggest issue I had was just it's a very poorly put together script. There are a lot of dangling threads, a lot of characters who just disappear. And I actually, maybe I'll sound like a sick bastard for saying this. I was actually mildly disappointed when it looked like they killed an entire regatta worth of kids, only to find out it was just one. And it just happened to be the MILF's son. And it's like, really? That's the only one you're going to kill?
That was a little odd, because they really play that up with like the big octopus head like trailing the boats.
Yeah, knocked every single one of them over. So, just, I don't know. Overall, I just thought it was kind of a hot mess of a film. It was pretty to look at. Some of that 70s music was fun, although from what I understand, the composer recycled almost the whole score from another film. It really felt like almost everyone involved was giving between a C and D effort, with maybe a couple people rising above. But that's different from people giving their all for something that's clearly a C movie. You know what I mean? It's more like a film.
The term I was searching for earlier that I'm going to stick with is magnificently mediocre.
It is mediocre, but I wouldn't call it all that magnificent. So. I don't know. You got
John Huston in there, fucking giving some. It might not be the best dialogue, but it sounds good.
If his character, if they had done more with his character, it might have saved the film for me. But he literally just disappears. Like, he's not even in the final act. And it's, I don't know, the final act was, I don't know. I sound like I'm completely dumping on it. It was mildly entertaining. It started off with promise. Again, even though I don't necessarily love that they killed a baby, the fact that they went there right out of the gate, I was like, oh, well, this might be your different sort of film.
In reality, we all love that they killed the baby. No one's going to say that, but we know that
teach that spoiled mother a lesson. I mean, overall, I thought it was interesting. It did set up a bunch of fun tentacle porn jokes. It kind of reminded me of in the Venture Brothers, when Dr. Venture watches the Bessel whorehouse in Texas, and he's all stoked about it, and then afterwards he's like, worst porno ever. And I was kind of joking along those lines with this one, but I mean, look at that cover art. I mean, geez, you know.
Yeah, it's one of those. If you stumbled upon the poster walking through Times Square, hopefully not getting shivved by weird
Think how many
addicts,
young men were just heartbroken by this movie. But yeah, overall, it was interesting. I mean, I think I'm glad I saw it. It's always interesting to see what people like Fonda and Houston were up to in the 70s, because it was kind of in the latter part of their careers. I'm glad that Fonda had at least one more solid hit after this one with On Golden Pond. I'm glad he had at least one more solid hit. And Houston, did anyone else kind of feel like he was kind of setting the template? And this was one thing that intrigued me, and I wish I had more of the character. If he had a heavier Scottish brogue, I would have felt like he was the older Henry Jones from The Last Crusade. You know?
He had some of that vibe. And, you know, I loved how I think, you know, John Huston's Gandalf is just John Huston. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, man, if I could not just hear that the whole time. And it just felt, even his demeanor felt like just Gandalf playing a private eye in our time, you know, like this wise old man that's like, yeah, I'm gonna needle in here and fucking figure it out, and you might not like me, but I'm not going away. You know, I loved the character, but I agree we got it cut dramatically short and did not really get, you know, as much of it as we deserved, especially with our investment in the film by that point.
I will give it one other thing too, and that is, this may come as blasphemy for some people, but the other film that I really know him from as an actor, of course, was Chinatown, and he was absolutely wonderful in that film. But that was a better film in every conceivable way. But this is the part someone could find blasphemous. I found Chinatown boring. So, you know, I guess that's something about his films.
With it as well. I probably need to reevaluate it now that I'm older, but yeah.
Right.
John Huston is one of those dudes that I don't think he can deliver. He's like a Tom Noonan or God damn it, his name is escaping me now, but the guy that just played Jeffrey Dahmer's dad, who we were praising not that long ago in the chat. They're those types of character actors that they're never not awesome. I mean, John Huston's voice sounds like how Old Spice smells, you know. So it's the guy can literally read the phone book, as is the cliche, and I would listen to it because it's John fucking Huston, man.
Right.
I mean,
like I said, he has the same.
My name is Gandalf, and Gandalf means me. You know, that's fucking my whole childhood right there, pretty much, with that dude being a voice of things, because he doesn't get the credit that he probably deserves for some of that work, but he did a couple of different roles, I feel like.
You know, before I rewatched this, I would have been like, how did you fall asleep? And then, like, on this rewatch, I was like, you know, this is a lot slower than I remember in some places. So I kind of get it, actually, Jake.
And it's in a good way. It's like a pleasant slowness, you know. It's got that 70s TV movie vibe where, like, again, if you saw this home from school sick with the flu, you'd be like,
right.
That was not the worst way to spend, you know, the last 2 hours or whatever.
I could see this being an afternoon, like a sick day afternoon viewing, where if you fall asleep in the middle of it, you don't really care. And then you wake up at the end and you're like, oh, okay, you know, no time for another nap, you know.
You hit the nail on the head right there, Jake, because we've all had those days where you watch movies like that too. And
now,
sometimes, you know, you would put in your favorite films, but sometimes you just flick on cable and like turn to a random station and find a movie that looked interesting and watch that. And then this very well could have been that day for any number of us, you know.
I will make one more comment, then I guess we can send it along down the line. But I remember in the chat, Dustin, sounded like you and Brandon kind of were on a wavelength of maybe it was because of the Italian involvement that it might have dragged a little. And I know I put him to sleep by showing him Il Postino. I also put him to sleep, by the way, by showing him Chinatown. But the
Great poster for that maybe, though.
I would say I would disagree with that because I, for the most part, love Italian films. For the most part, I think they're really enjoyable. I've seen a few bad ones, and of course, we did Titanic: The Legend Goes On this channel for one of the infamously bad ones. But even that one, the pacing wasn't the problem; it was everything else.
Italians pace for mood, not for runtime, and that's
they're very good at
atmosphere. Sometimes that works great.
Yeah.
Sometimes that fucking does not at all. Yeah.
But I do know also the language is kind of musical, so if it's actually in Italian, it could put you to sleep because of that. But since these were badly dubbed, that's not really a reason there. I think it's more what you're saying, the afternoon television vibe.
Yeah, it's got that. It's like watching the Butter Creek Gang or something. Like you just want to fall asleep after.
I loved that when I was a kid.
So do I. I still love it, dude. I still covet my VHS tape because unfortunately there's not wide releases of that in a better format. It needs a Blu-ray release. Double featured with On Our Own, if we can make that happen. But yeah. That's a tale for another time. So, Tammy, first impressions, Tentacles. Go.
I think it's the first time I saw it. I'm not sure. It reminds me of a totally different thing than an afternoon thing like you guys are talking about. It reminds me of when I used to be by my great-grandparents' house and they'd go to bed like on a Friday or Saturday night and I get up and I go the scary movies that were on late at night. And it reminds me of something that would have been on then. So
yeah, same difference, really.
I could have seen it. I could have seen it back then very easily, but I just don't remember because I watched lots of them then. But yeah, it was all right. Yeah, it was slow in a few parts and kind of felt like I was gonna start dozing, But it's true monster movie for the era, It was fun. It was somewhat boring in parts, but I think they, did some really good shots of the octopus and storyline wasn't all too bad. Is I do like some of the attack scenes. They were pretty good.
For sure.
I like
kind of makes you want to drink a margarita. Notice that about halfway through, like, damn, all this ocean view just
at
makes
first
me want to
though
have a margarita.
I thought all those kids got killed too at first, and I was like, oh no. But so not that I'm glad that only one, not that I'm glad a kid did get killed, but I'm glad it wasn't all the kids got killed. So
don't you lie to us, you loved it.
But yeah, it was enjoyable. So
all right, so Forrest, you got anything to say here, pal?
All right,
Pass that egg down there.
This is the first time watch for me too. Great. I will say this. I generally enjoy Italian. I generally enjoy Italian horror. Bava, Fulci, Argento, and it's got a solid cast: John Huston and Shelley Winters, Bo Hopkins, Henry Fonda. But I don't know. I feel like this. Yeah, this movie definitely feels. I mean, it's an hour and 40 minutes, but it feels long. It felt long to me. I felt like it could have been. I think they could have trimmed about maybe 20 minutes. It would have been a tighter. Maybe make
at least
tighten up a bit. Yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of the underwater stuff was well done. But yeah, I just felt like it was just a very slow. For me, just felt very like, for a beam, for a low budget creature low budget creature feature, it just felt very, it felt very slow. It felt very slow and I don't know. I just couldn't really I couldn't quite get into it. I couldn't quite get into it. Like I got into Eight-Legged Freaks.
You got
or even something like Piranha.
You got to settle into this one a little bit. It does take a while to really set up the vibes and stuff. I feel like once it gets going, the vibes are pretty well established, but it takes a long time for that to happen. So,
I wonder if that could be an effect of just dubbing in general too, because there seems to be. I'm sort of thinking that maybe there's kind of a disconnect when you see something that's dubbed like this.
See, not for me. I think the reason it was so entertaining for me compared to what like Forrest or other people are experiencing was because immediately I was like, okay, we've got Gandalf and a couple other people speaking English. Like Roseanne's mom is right there speaking English, but all these other people aren't. And the dub is fucking terrible. So immediately the movie became me paying more attention to the dub than a lot of the movie. Like I listened to a good portion of it while I was making dinner as well, so it's just I was just listening to the bad dub and like John Huston passages, so I was in a good place with my fandoms, because I love me some John Huston, and listening to Gandalf talk to me while I was also watching a B movie was pretty great. I just think that I don't know. No one really has anything in particular to say. The fact that it takes them so long to even realize that it's an octopus is strange, or it's something in the ocean. I mean, they're focusing on like what's the common link. I think that was the biggest moment in the movie where I was like, what the fuck's even happening here? Okay, cool. Yeah, it's the radio frequencies. Nobody's thought to even like look in the water yet, really? Until this diver guy fucking has to go down there.
Yeah, that was pretty corny.
Like they just basically ignore that it's obviously some waterborne creature killing these people until like a third of the way through the movie. At least in Jaws there was the dude like shouting it's a shark, but I feel like in this one no one even knew to shout that it was an octopus. I feel like half of the movie was made with them not even really knowing what was going to be killing them.
The octopus did lay low for a pretty good amount of the runtime.
Yeah, there was never even any parts where John Huston is talking about like, unless I missed them, where it's like, oh, there's suction cut marks on them. It has to be a large octopus or something. Did that ever happen?
No, not that I could see.
Was I so stoned I missed it? I mean, what happened here? You have a man like John Huston on cast, and you don't use him to explain this gigantic tentacly beast that's fucking attacking people. It seems a missed opportunity. That wouldn't be if they had the option. So I don't know. We could be looking at a movie that was supposed to be some drastically different type of film. That was really two movies spliced together. I mean,
that's possible.
So that's basically what I was getting at. Like, could some of the stuff that doesn't make sense could not make sense because they weren't meant to be in the same movie. You know what I mean?
It's an interesting idea, actually, and that would kind of explain a couple things. Because most of the setup of this movie is just, it's so slow, like, it doesn't really fit. Yeah. So I'm just kind of thinking about that now. I mean, I'm sure we'd be proven wrong with some digging, but at the same time, it's like
I would hope so, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's looking like that could be possible. Which happened in the 70s, you know? It was a lawless wasteland of sleaze cinema that a lot of you guys are
borrowing different
now
scenes from
becoming
different
acquainted
people
with.
because of the low budget.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
for the rest of the plot, we really just moved from like weirdly dubbed exposition to octopus attacks. And what makes this movie fun are the octopus attacks. So I don't quite remember exactly how many we get. I think I should have probably counted them.
I wonder if, because we have the scuba diver that has a wife that is somewhat involved in the story, where his wife actually does get attacked by the octopus, and I'm not. Is that cleared up at all on the Blu-ray of Kino and Shout? Because it was relatively dark on the copy that I
I'll be right
that
back,
I have.
you guys. So if you could meander for a minute on whatever Dave's talking about, that'd be awesome.
The picture quality on the Blu-rays is actually pretty good. In some scenes, maybe almost too good, because is that the so a lot of the people in this movie, frankly, look exactly alike to me.
Okay.
So you could be referring to two different people that I'm
This is
remembering. Is this the scene with Lily?
I'm remembering that she was the woman who was telling him she didn't want him to like go out and do anything. He's like, okay, I'll just do the dive at this much, you know. And then it's later that you see her get attacked, and I think she's out by a buoy. And she basically gets spun around with by the tentacles, and I thought that was a cool effect.
Is it night or day?
I believe it's night.
Okay, so that is the scene I was thinking about. Yeah, so when the octopus kind of rears up up at her out of the water, and it is very clearly like stock footage being projected like on a screen, like spliced in, because it looks very fake. It either looks really fake or like the octopus is very far away. Like that was a good effect though that you were describing when the tentacles like wrap around her legs underwater. Like that looks pretty realistic.
Yeah, like she spins around like a top or something like that for a little bit, you know.
Anyway, on Blu-ray, like that scene is pretty clear, and it kind of makes the effect worse. Like having it be more brightly lit. The background octopus effect, not the tentacle wrapping effect, which is still pretty good.
Okay. I'm curious.
I thought that was actually done pretty good. There's actually another part where the tentacles are like creeping up onto that ship before it starts dismantling it. That actually really freaked me out a little bit. If I was a kid, I probably would have found this movie terrifying.
All right, where are we in the plot per se? I know we've been kind of skipping around a little bit, but
that's one thing that's kind of difficult with this movie is like figuring out like exactly where you are.
Yeah, because it's not exactly very plot centric. You know,
it's not.
It's basically just an octopus is eating people. Everyone is pretty much too dumb to realize that that's what's going on. John Huston's going around like, it's you, and I know it's you, and I'm not going to stop saying it's you, and we're going to figure it out, you know, and then they're just basically like, oh, I don't know what happens, and then there's octopus stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk of like the upcoming regatta, and we see people getting ready for it. It's kind of like the 4th of July in Jaws, like where, you know, the people in charge of like public safety, like this
is one of those ones where it's like a centennial celebration or whatever, since they don't want to link it to a specific holiday or something.
I think so, yeah. It's one of the.
It's just like, oh, it's the town centennial, so we're gonna do all the things we would do on certain fall holidays, just fall and summer holidays, but not call it those things, you know. those movies are always good to apply to other stuff. There's several of those. I feel like even Freddy versus Jason is one.
It's one of those pieces of information that they kind of snap off quickly in dialogue, and if you weren't like really listening, like right that second, like you miss it. So,
Right.
But I think it was one of those things. Phew, boy, I'm getting pretty tired. The show must go on.
I mean, dude, what is there? They basically, the guy is pressing like the people at the corporation and sort of the city officials to tell him the truth. It seems like he's very cooperative with the police and those people about not publishing anything that they don't want necessarily published right away. But he's going to get the story either way. And he just carries himself in that way where it's like he's this old school like reporter with a strong sense of morals that's not going to be swayed. So it's like Jaws in that you have them stupidly for some reason not acknowledging what's obviously going on, but at the same time you've got this dude that is doggedly pursuing them way differently than Roy Schreider did in Jaws. Like, he's not backing down. They're gonna get to the bottom of this octopus situation, and then it just kind of goes nowhere, if that makes sense. So a little frustrating.
Makes some sense.
That's pretty much it, really. So, I mean, what really saves us all, again, are the octopus attacks, which the first one I can remember, that's one of like their big set pieces, are the people on that yacht. Like, this is the one in the daytime. And like a couple people are in the water and you just see them get pulled down, and then they're like fake octopus like envelopes the ship. And I thought that was pretty well done. And that's something that sticks out in my mind.
It's great. That girl is stupid fucking hot. I don't understand how that happens, but that girl is just ridiculously hot. But the one that actually precedes it is the divers. They go down in the Trojan thing, which the font. Forrest, am I wrong, or did that remind you of Trauma?
I could see it.
Like,
I could definitely see that.
The way the font was on that thing, it was like, what the fuck? Is Lloyd launching a fucking craft here? And then it just turned out to be them. I mean, I guess, they sent this dude with like, that kind of looked like Stephen King with this other guy down there. And they basically just get killed. The one dude gets sucked in to like an ink situation. Which I don't think works. I don't think that's what octopuses do, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other guy makes it back to the diving bell, but the octopus gets that as well. So I would argue that's the first big set piece, I guess, but all they really did was make some bubbles under the water and some flipping and flopping, like, air hoses, which was still cool. But yeah, there's not a ton of. I mean, I think the one you just mentioned is probably the best scene in the movie for my money.
The one I recognized the most in here was the Sheriff Robard. I remember him in quite a few westerns and playing a cop type character. Claude Atkins was his name. And he played in the original Night Stalker movie.
Nice.
So I recognized him at least.
Well, obviously, John Huston was a big one.
In a Trauma picked up film called Where Evil Lives in 1991. So there is a Trauma connection here.
True. I don't know if that was active when they were shooting Tentacles, but
No, that was in 1991, so definitely years later.
Interesting nonetheless. Sorry about that, Dustin. Continue.
Oh, I'm just trying to rack my brain for more of those scenes. because we get a night attack that's pretty good, except for the aforementioned like cruddy effect,
Mm-hmm.
and that. I'm trying to remember the things that I liked the most about this movie the first time I saw it, and compare them to, well, how do you feel about them today? And it seems to be mostly just the same stuff that I really enjoy. So, along with that
I don't know
bizarre ending,
why.
like they picked the craziest way to kill the octopus.
I don't know what. Oh yeah, that was pretty crazy, and I actually thought that was one of the smartest things that they actually did. And weren't those orcas named Summer and Winter?
I think that's what they were. Yeah.
Yeah, that was their names.
I thought that was actually kind of cool because that made me think like, oh, so I could either watch Keiko or shall I say Orca the killer whale, like as a double feature with this.
It was creative enough that it was like they at least gave a little bit of a shit about this movie,
yeah, they had the presence of mind to do something different.
But yeah, the part where the octopus was like knocking over all the boats, I don't know why, but even though I knew that was an octopus head, it still reminded me a little bit of a crocodile, just a little bit.
A little bit, yeah, because the bulbous eyes sticking out to the sides. I felt the same thing. I feel like, this touches back to Jake's thing in the previous discussion, but a lot of this is just not also octopus behavior at all.
No.
Like, octopuses are very, opportunistic hunters, They're not trying to just kill everyone.
That was coming up with the theory that the radio waves were affecting it, and it was like that investor guy's stuff that that he was doing down in the ocean. He was creating radio waves, and that's what disturbed him.
We talked about that earlier with that connection to other films like Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue, and I still think that that's an interesting connection. I feel like there was a movement in like the late 70s where certain people thought that radio waves might be dangerous, so they're like,
yep,
they could turn you into a zombie.
Radio waves, radiation, toxic, solutions, all the
Most
unknown.
of them seem to have came out of it, but some of them probably still think that. And that's why they're like QAnon believers or some shit.
Environmentalists definitely have their theories.
Some of those people might trace it back to some of these horror films as origins for that.
Well, even the 1950s had some horror films that were definitely environmental in nature, because there was a lot of things that people feared. If we did this, don't you think this could happen? And this came from that era of mindset. Like, okay. Now we're talking about. Now we're doing all this stuff on the radio, and we're starting to be more electronic and things of that nature. But what about the consequences?
Exactly. Maybe it would make these octopuses attack us, or later on when they develop 5G, it would turn the frogs gay.
Afraid.
That's what
the unknown.
Who knows what could happen?
Afraid of technology.
That mystery of what is these rays passing through our skulls doing to us,
what exactly is Big Brother doing with their own radio waves? That's
slowly. Right now, they're feeding a Morse code into your bloodstream that will eventually one day make you gay. And then we'll finally be able to get married, Dave. So happily ever after. The point is, we're talking about this film. And this film is obviously Tentacles. I think the octopus stuff was used very sparingly. I think sparingly. I think that the use of the stock footage was not overshadowed by the practical effects or vice versa. I think any other area where you would say this movie failed, they definitely deserve credit in the special effects and editing department for making the movie feel pretty fucking legitimate.
It's almost like with the stock footage and whatever they filmed, they didn't even like edit it. They just presented it as is, and we're like, okay, here, take this to the theaters.
But it works, dude. It flows. I mean, I don't ever feel for a moment like the octopus is really fake. I feel like it's just a real octopus that happens to poke up and grab people sometimes. The scenes we mentioned where it feels a little fake are basically excused by the time frame they were making it in a lot of ways.
Pretty much, yeah. Like they're fake octopus, like the actual like,
pretty good
prop is honestly pretty good. Yeah, exactly. Like it really works. Kind of wonder how they did some of those scenes, because you can see the tentacles themselves moving, and it's like, did you just put like a pipe in there or something? Like how are you doing this? Is it just like a wire? Or
probably several puppeteers up in the rafters also helping to move it around. I mean, it's hard to say. That's the wonder and the magic of old school movie making right there. How did they do that? Because they certainly didn't just CGI it in there. Couldn't have been done at the time. This movie's certainly also not a technical marvel. Let's be honest about that. But it looks well enough that you're like, all right, I basically buy the octopus stuff through the whole movie, which I think is the aim of any monster movie. Where you're like, all right, this octopus is bigger than normal and it's fucking with the ships. I mean, probably you should just leave it alone, mark that place on the map as a place where krakens dwell or something, and just leave it to it, But I guess people are still going to go there. So
right off the
one thing, technically speaking, is that nowadays octopus's tentacles are technically arms. So, I mean, not that makes any difference, but a lot of people call them tentacles, but they are in fact anatomically considered arms.
Fascinating. I love it. I'm still gonna call them tentacles.
I know, so am I, but. I think it's kind of interesting how they kind of try to technically term it and box it out up like it's not supposed to be tentacles, So, but
I'm wondering who they are in this situation.
Well, if you look up
cephalopod scientists,
Christian Moms Against Tentacles, Jacob, obviously.
If you Google it, this is what it says.
They're the ones
octopus
that secretly
has
like
8
them the
appendages,
most.
each of which has rows of suckers running its length. But these are not tentacles. In strict anatomical terms, they are arms. A tentacle has suckers only on its pad-shaped ending.
Those are the 2 long ones on the giant squid.
You know what that also describes? My penis. Let's finish talking about this movie. All right? We got to keep.
We are bold. Damn. Yeah, we got to
because we're at an hour right now. So, and there's more to be said for sure.
Definitely. So let's go into the special effects then.
Have you ever encountered a giant squid, Dave, on your many trips into the high seas?
Well, like I said already, the practical effects octopus does hold up pretty well, and aside from some of those bad composites, I mean, it really looks good. The scenes where the octopus is like smashing into boats and stuff, like I buy those scenes. Like they are well done. I mean, with that first attack that I praised earlier on, where the octopus, like we get an underwater shot of the octopus like enveloping the boat from below.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool
Love it.
shot. Like it works for me. You know, you
The
can
whole
kind of
sequence,
tell it's a
man. I mean,
model,
it's
but-
like a visual representation of what was probably going through the imaginations of sailors when they would hear about the Kraken, you know, or something, you know, like it coming and like attacking a boat and tearing it apart, you know. So very much in my mind was like those old drawings you would see on old maps of the world where there was like maybe there was a Kraken here, you know, like that's basically what they thought they were going to experience was that sequence in Tentacles, you know.
Yeah, there are definitely many different stories from different people over time about giant monsters in the sea and stuff like that.
They're out there, man.
Yeah,
For sure. Like once they found the giant squid back when we were like teenagers or whatever, you knew that it's like, all right, yeah, Megalodon probably still exists. It's just way, way, way down there in the ocean and doesn't come up very often.
And
Or
probably
maybe not Megalodon, but other
but
things like
fun
that.
to
You know?
pretend. There's definitely some stuff down there that hasn't been seen yet, especially in the deep ocean.
Yeah.
The way I phrase it is, I allow myself to have one superstition, and my superstition is sea monsters. So I think there are sea monsters.
Actually,
I firmly believe that there are. Yeah.
well,
But,
I did.
Jake?
I had to put in the message feed the other day. I had my little geek out moment where I was looking into information on the original Jaws author Peter Benchley, because he actually did a Kraken movie called Beast, well, a book that became a movie or TV movie called
This is one of my
Beast,
favorite things ever, honestly.
which is it's a good book. I enjoyed it.
It's a great
But-
book, and the movie's fine.
I've got it. I haven't read it.
I hadn't, but it came after this, so in a way, he may have been cannibalizing this. Who knows? But I am familiar to a degree, to what little degree a surface dweller can be. I've done a lot of research into sharks, and particularly enjoy the dog shark group because they include so many very, very cool deep sea fish. And I had not realized that they named one after him. And I just thought that was incredibly awesome. Anopterus benchley. But
That's
what's
beautiful.
really doubly awesome is that apparently they decided that the common name should be the ninja lantern shark. I'm like, I should be so lucky as to have someone name something after me and call it the ninja something or other.
Man.
I think that would be great. But yeah, this was a brand new find. They found it 7 years ago. So yeah, they are finding new stuff all the time down there. It's like you never know.
Well, dude, there's the most famous example I always use because I've just heard it so many times from so many, I guess we can assume credible sources, but is the whole thing about like the great white shark with the transmitter and that. I mean, there's they tagged like a 15-foot great white shark with the transmitter, right? The transmitter fucking gets taken and drops all of a sudden down to a depth of like way, like 2,000 feet or something crazy like that. But the temperature doesn't change immediately because it's inside of something. And this continues for a while until the transmitter is eventually found basically by itself, like pooped out of something. Just floating along, man. I mean, something ate that fucking shark.
That's a relatively big shark, too.
Yeah. 15 feet? It's not relatively big, dude. That's fucking huge.
Yeah.
Any of us. So something that ate that in basically a gulp and took it down to however many 1,000 meters or whatever. It's not something I want to run into in the ocean. You know?
No, definitely
maybe it's
not.
not megalodon, but it's certainly something that happened to that shark. You know, so stuff like this is not too crazy. I don't know if I think if there was massive octopus out there, the way they hunt, they'd be up more towards the surface a lot more often. You know, like real octopus are. Even fucking giant squid come up to the surface at night to feed on those little shrimps and shit. That's how they got footage of it. So something bigger that doesn't need to skim the surface for scraps is obviously not going to be up where we're looking most often, and probably knows how to avoid us at this point down below. So World War II probably taught them some valuable lessons. Let's just say that much. We've never dumped more ordnance into the ocean than during that entire conflict. So they pretty much know where we are, and dropping depth charges and shit. So there's good, tinfoil hat conspiracies to be made about there being lots of awesome, life in the ocean that we're not quite aware of right now.
Oh yeah,
I kind of believe most of them, honestly.
Here too.
There'd be monsters there, on the map.
I know we.
So I think we should probably cover music. And, did anybody have more to comment on with the bizarre finale where they're like, okay, we're gonna let these killer whales go and we're gonna have them tear the octopus apart? Like, anybody else think that was a little weird?
I loved it. I thought it was fucking awesome, dude.
I thought
Very
it was
weird.
awesome too, because these whales were protecting that, their friend,
Mm-hmm.
By the power of my denim shorts, I release you. Do my bidding.
His little speech that he gave to the whale to them, it's like, "Will you help me, friends?" That was about as weird as what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
It was cool. It was just kind of
simultaneously
unusual.
the goofiest and most epic thing about the whole movie.
Exactly. But
this is a solid slow jam. You know what I mean? This is that thing you put on while you're barbecuing the meats and you're just hanging out with your friends and sipping some beers and having some popcorn. Like in between like an awesome movie like we did previously and maybe something we would have done after. It's not, the highlight of the session, but it's certainly one people are going to be like, you remember that movie where Gandalf was like a reporter and it was orcas versus the Kraken? That's pretty much what happened. So,
yeah, and
I'm thankful that it exists for sure.
Yeah, and I still like this movie, even though I've kind of noticed now how sort of slowly paced and how many flaws it has. Whereas I didn't really notice that before. But just, I guess, a quick segment on the music, which this has good music. Like, despite
really
being
does.
recycled, like, it's memorable.
I don't know where they stole
The
it,
music
but they organized it in a way that made it a musical mystery tour for me.
The music is done by Stelvio Caprani, who goes by many various pseudonyms. He composed like behind Piranha 2. He composed behind the infamous Umberto Lenzi film Nightmare City.
Yeah, this guy definitely does not exist. It's probably something they named a kilo of cocaine they were all working on.
All I know is when the music was playing, the music got louder and louder and louder. It was just, I actually had
it worked, man. I was in some, like I said, some noise canceling headphones, big old hash blunt in my fucking hands. Like I was properly
you did the music behind The Great Alligator.
Like it just felt so. It sounded so good. Like just this badass, continuous, like weird sort of 70s TV movie / psychedelic fucking mixtape, you know. I
I
like
think
it.
the music went okay with the movie. It's just it got so loud in points,
Yeah,
Oh,
it was alright.
I think they did that.
Definitely behind some Giallo films, like
You
the
only live
Bloodstained
once, Tamara.
Shadow.
Sometimes you gotta turn it up to 11, okay?
Ooh, the Bermuda Triangle, another one. Oh, one that was kind of around the same era.
Not
Yeah,
seen it.
so, yeah, I guess yeah, sounds like that's it. So I guess in summary, just give Tentacles a try.
We didn't do our favorite scenes.
No, we
Yeah,
didn't.
we gotta do our favorite characters, favorite scenes.
Oh man, I am falling asleep here, my guys.
We also have not spent enough time talking about the magnificent fucking straw hat that Roseanne's mom wears when she checks those kids into it's dudes, that straw hat alone is worth watching this movie for.
This had some really different costume choices for sure.
If you get to that point and you've been smoking any number of potent weed hits, you are definitely going to be like, is this really this bad? Yeah, or am I just imagining that this is this bad? And it's definitely that bad. She's got the worst oversized, like, I don't even know, it's not a sombrero, it's like a cowboy hat. It's the best thing and the worst thing I've ever seen. How is that not like a meme, like middle class grandmas when spring hits and then they've got the biggest straw hat in the world on? Like, that should be a fucking meme for sure, but I don't think enough people have seen Tentacles to know that they should make a meme out of it yet. It's also important to address my absolute refusal to call this movie or pronounce the title of it true, but I just think Tentacles is more fun. So.
Not really disagreeing with you.
But
anyway, I guess we'll just blast into favorite scenes then.
Sure.
So for me, I think it would have to still be that daytime boat attack that I mentioned, because like you get a good look at the octopus, you get some solid destruction, and you get decent kills. So it just kind of summarizes what's enjoyable about the movie in one scene to me.
And one of the hottest chicks I've ever seen in my life. And she just happens to be married to this fat Mexican dude that for some reason he's in an Italian movie so they can say he looks like a seal. Which you could argue is kind of racist. Mm-hmm. He's dark brown. He's darker brown than them, and he looks like a seal. Mm-hmm. But it's whatever. He is a tubby fella, and they all meet their end.
There is a lot of stuff in this movie that's kind of out of place. I'll just say that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird scene.
What about your favorite scene, Mo, and possibly a favorite character?
Oh, well, my favorite character is John Huston's character, hands down. I mean, as soon as I heard, I'm making a big what to do about the whole Hobbit and Lord of the Rings parallels lately, but it is funny how that stuff happens, This movie literally has Gandalf as one of the main characters, Ian McKellen is a great Gandalf, but he'll never be the main Gandalf to me. I grew up on the Lord of the Rings animated movie and the Hobbit animated movie. And in that one, John Huston is Gandalf. And it's always just been etched in my brain. That's the definitive Hobbit movie to me. So John Huston is a goddamn legend. And then, you account for all his other roles. And the guy is just quite literally a living legend that somehow ended up in this movie, and I don't understand it. It's really
Not to mention
in his
acting
wheelhouse,
was
but
his
also
second
not.
gig.
What's that, Jake?
I said not to mention acting was his second gig. He's primarily a director.
Yeah, am I wrong in thinking that this is a weird movie and a time for John Huston to show up as this particular? It just feels like he was doing someone a favor. You know?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure where I was going with that, but I don't really have a favorite scene in the movie. I guess probably that one that you mentioned, where our fat friend from below the border gets dispatched, and the super hot girl ends up dying too because the octopus rips apart their boat. I think that's also where we get that bottom view of the octopus creeping up under the boat, and then the tentacles start coming up over it. So in terms of effects or moments that they made the whole gimmick believable, that's probably the pinnacle of the movie.
That is one hell of a shot.
Oh heck yeah, yeah. John Huston actually directed Moby Dick, the original Moulin Rouge, The African Queen, Key Largo, The Treasure of the Sierra Nevada, and his first feature was in fact The Maltese Falcon.
Talk about hitting
Like
it
I
on
said,
a high
dude,
note
I
right out of the
mean-
gate.
Good. Sorry, Jake.
I said, talk about hitting it on a high note right out of the gate.
Oh yeah.
Not to mention, he's got his, if I remember correctly, Danny Houston and Angelica are his kids. So there's a nice little family dynasty going on there.
Oh, of course.
Didn't Angelica Houston just recently die too?
Oh, she's still alive and well.
Yeah, she's still around.
Okay.
Nah, I think you're thinking of that other lady that died in the car crash.
That other lady.
To be fair, there's a lot of like actors and actresses out there, and it's kind of hard to remember everybody.
Yeah, people die
Right.
sometimes. Apparently, it happens. I don't know, man. Well, I'm not going to digress any further. We'll talk about that after we're up.
Let's go around. Forrest, how about your favorite scene or favorite character?
God, favorite scene or favorite character? I agree with that boating scene. That was, and also again, I think the underwater stuff was really well done.
Some of the clearest scuba diving footage, actually, I think I've ever seen in a movie, including Thunderball and stuff like that, where it's like, the scuba diving footage in this was beautiful. Am I wrong?
Oh, absolutely. No, not at all.
That's all I have to say. I mean, it was just really good scuba diving footage, which apparently it seems isn't the easiest to get. So kudos to him for that one.
Definitely. What about you, Tammy?
Forrest
favorite
wasn't finished.
No, that's okay. No, I'm done. I'm done.
Forrest, are you sure?
Yep, positive.
All right.
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
My favorite scene is the end, when the whales were attacking octopus, so they could save their friend. I thought that was cool. I mean, they were just like going to town on that thing.
So it is super cool.
That is a really awesome scene too. So I'm glad somebody named that as their favorite.
Yes, thank you,
and I
Danny.
keep forgetting the reporter guy's name, but he was my favorite.
Okay.
Because he just kept
and
at
Gandalf means me. Yeah.
Well, no, I forgot his name in the movie, but I mean, he just kept, he wasn't backing down, trying to prove what was going on.
Oh, he was the best, like needling in there, being like, "I'm not going anywhere," and it was. Honestly, his whole fucking scene with his sister at the beginning of the movie, which his sister being what is it, Shelley Winter? I forget her fucking last name. But,
Shelley Winter.
She's Roseanne's mom. She's in several other movies as like a random bar lady or all types of cool stuff. But I know her as
Ma
Roseanne's
Parker in
mom.
the '60s Batman TV series.
What's that?
She played. I think if I recall correctly, she played Ma Parker in the '60s Batman TV series.
There you go. So, I mean, she's got a long history. Whatever you remember from, you certainly probably remember her, especially with that haircut and the hat and everything.
Right.
So, just cool to have those people in a movie together. Lots of memorable stuff from, characters in that first sequence of the movie. That has really nothing to do with it being a Tentacles movie, excuse me, or any type of a creature feature. It's just really like him and her having a really candid talk about being brother and sister.
One question about that. Am I crazy, or did he refer to her as the older sibling?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So one, he when this film was made, John Huston was already 71. He was 70 basically.
Yeah,
when
he
they
was
made
old as
this
the
film.
rings, baby.
So he was basically 70. She was 14 years his junior and looked 14 years his junior. She has a kid who's 10, 11, something like that. So there is some really weird, wonky math going on with both of those
things. If you were
things.
fucking, look at their lifestyles, though. She's wearing magnificently fucking despicable straw hats. While
she's still living at Sunset Boulevard. He's living in Peyton Place.
Yeah,
right.
But even reference her being promiscuous compared to him at the beginning. So he's, then he's pursuing this other entire lifestyle. So that stuff can age you sometimes.
He looks every bit of 70. But yes, let's say Ned Turner here was living the Hunter Thompson lifestyle. Still, the indication is, if she's the older sibling, that she's probably at least mid-60s.
Right.
That's still kind of like, her kid should probably be twice that age. just throwing it out there.
I did want to take a side mention. I guess we have Ty Lord listening to us, and he's messaged a couple of times. Too Risky for Regatta is a great track. Next, he said, weird.
Oh, Tyler's
movie
my boy,
had
dude.
Such a big name cast. And then do the Orca trilogy marathon. Tentacles, Orca, and Jaws 2. Could be the same whale.
Yeah, I'm down.
It is
Tyler.
weird.
Thanks for tuning in, man.
Interesting idea. I like that.
Yep. I have a feeling we'll probably hit Orca eventually.
I thought we had done Orca. That seemed like something I would have wanted to cover a while ago.
No, we haven't done Orca yet.
Great,
Interesting. Well, thanks for giving us the idea.
All right.
I missed the screen name, but I'm shouting
you
you out.
We did do Jaws, so we're primed to do Jaws 2 at some point.
And I don't think it's that bad.
I guess my favorite
was Peter Benchley's Creature, with the dude from fucking Coach as the main
I think we
guy.
did Creature.
Yeah.
You might
anyway,
have,
Dave,
but,
I think you had your favorite coming up, right?
Yeah. My favorite, I don't know why, is that Nighttime Spin. I just there's something weird about it that just is memorable. I haven't quite seen the same spin in any other film, like a pinwheel. So,
Oh, the effect where the tentacles just snake around like that girl. Yeah, that is a really good one.
Yeah. But I think my favorite character is John Huston. And yeah, I do like the fact that he does keep on going. He's kind of like that character that is in Jaws saying "Stay off the beach," you know.
Yeah, dude. And if
Yeah.
you close your eyes, it's like Gandalf is doing it. So it's like this wizard from another
Right.
time telling him like, "Get off the beach, you idiot."
But think about the missed opportunities with him not getting on that boat at the end. You could have had your moment of Gandalf saying something along the lines of "Smile, you son of a bitch."
Son of a bitch. Yes, Jacob.
That would have been great.
Jacob, I'm so proud of you.
So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I think the discussion has come to an end. So
did we do favorites on the bottom now?
No, we're not done, bro.
I thought that we went through Forrest.
I think you were the last one. Yeah.
Oh,
we got
okay.
Tammy's. I remember Forrest.
Okay, Jake. Jake, why don't you tell us your favorites?
Well, our boy Ned is definitely my favorite character. I guess I'll have to say most of the scenes he was in because the movie really went off a cliff afterwards. So, yeah, there we go.
We hear you, Ty-Lord. It is Gandalf in the Jaws movie, and you shall not suck should be the motto of this entire fucking podcast.
I think we'll go with that. You shall not suck. Okay, I had to get that out.
Wow.
Being an octopus, though, it's hard not to with kind of their tentacles.
Kind of goes with the territory.
Yeah, that was another thing. How they were talking about how like the flesh has been vacuumed off the bones, and like,
right. And I felt that huge oversight that there wasn't talk about like gnarly ass sucker cup wounds, right?
Right.
I'm sure that's what you're getting at, Dustin.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Shall we go around and tell them who we are?
Well, I think I'll start that off. So, sorry I'm kind of low energy. It's been a long day and I've been sick. So, I think we burned ourselves out on 8-Legged Freaks. But anyway, I'm the Crypto Horrors. That's the name of my YouTube channel where I collect horror movie stuff. Hopefully new videos coming soon because I've got, well, a bunch of new stuff over the course of the year that I just haven't shown anybody yet. So I got to get back to that. So I have an Instagram, the Crypto Horrors, as well, where I've been posting a bit more regularly. I was doing 31 Days of Halloween, like horror movies, but then I kind of went on a vacation where there wasn't really a TV I had access to, so I fell off. But I plan to come back really hard for November and redeem myself. So you can also find me on Twitter as DurCryptaxis, where I just spout kind of whatever nonsense comes to mind. And that's pretty much it for me. Go off, whoever wants to do this next.
Alrighty. How about you, Forrest?
All right. My name's Forrest Bennett. I'm Forrest Bennett. I'm an independent film producer and actor based here in Long Island, New York. Actually, I just have two projects that just came out this week for me as an actor. One's called one is a short monster movie called Night of the Day of the Tompkins Weed Monster, where I in 3D, where I play the titular weed monster. That's now available to watch on Dread Central. And then my feature film debut as an actor, Amityville Thanksgiving, just came out. So I'm really excited. So that just also came out. You can find that movie on either on SRS's website or in your neighborhood Walmart bargain bin. And I've always got something going on in the pipeline.
Yeah, Forrest does not fuck around.
No.
He's pretty much in everything. Unfortunately, he wasn't in Tentacles.
No, but no, I missed the boat by about a decade.
Can you imagine that as a boy fighting that fucking
As a
I said arms just for you, Dave. We're scientifically.
Alrighty, heading over to you, Jake. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right, I'm Kotobuki Jake. I am the co-host of the YouTube channel Septum Sim vs. the World, where we talk about physical media and all of its forms. We do pickup videos. We do random discussions. We recently did a Halloween discussion, I guess yesterday, did a Halloween discussion on Hellsing Ultimate for our anime anticlimax feature. We're working on, we also did for Horrorween, some Halloween appropriate anime. I think that was a 3-part video. And then, like I said, we do other random stuff here and there. We've got the Versus Awards, which recently aired. Check that out if you haven't yet. The second year for that one. And meanwhile, I am very, very busy man most of the time. Don't get as much time for viewing as I would like, but do tune in to so that I can join these fine folks for their discussions. We had a swing and a miss for me tonight, but it's kind of nice to have those, different. You never know what you're going to get with this, which is kind of fun, and hopefully it's fun for the listeners as well. And you got RoboCop next week, I think. Looking forward to that one. It'll give me an excuse to watch mine.
Man, that's amazing.
I
cannot wait for that.
It's gonna be a great time
for that.
I mean, I know a lot of people have covered it before, but we'll try to bring you something new.
Good times.
Yeah, who gives a shit about those people? We're definitely going to have a good time talking about RoboCop. You couldn't have chose a better film, actually. Outside of Alien or like Freddy versus Jason, I think RoboCop is one of those things. That no matter what franchise you're loyal to, RoboCop was kind of that Saturday night like sleepover thing.
I don't know. For me, RoboCop. I don't want to get. I mean, for me, RoboCop compared to those franchises, RoboCop was the original RoboCop is lightning in a bottle.
It's garbage beyond the first one, but exactly what I'm talking about. Like, as if you were one of those little kids that rented that other stuff, you definitely rented the RoboCop movies, and just tried to explain to your friends that. Actually, most of the time, I would just let them watch them blind and be like, right. And it's just like they were $1, and so chill out.
So, Mo, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Nothing much to tell. My name is Mosley. I do videos sometimes for my own channel lately, Retro Cult on Video. Formerly Drunken Master Studios, and my main focus lately has been our podcast, Schlockaholics, which me and Brandon and a friend of ours are doing on the side. We talk about indie horror films and all types of stuff like that. But one of the big attractions we've got going on this week is our first discussion for Schlock Rock, which is a series that covers theatrical bands and just bands in general that are goofy or unknown. We're kicking it off with Kiss, and our first discussion is going to be for the first 3 Kiss, albums. So if you're a fan of self-titled Hotter Than Hell or Dressed to Kill, join us over there for that. And basically just going to get crazier from there. Forrest sounded like he was going to say something. What were you going to say, dude?
I'm saying Guar.
Oh, Guar's going down for sure. Guar and Mushroom Head are like our next 2 goals. So
Yeah, it's kind of cool actually. I was at a gore show on Wednesday, and then Forrest saw them on the same tour. In
Yeah,
his
yeah.
area.
I saw them last night on Halloween.
The Black
That's
Death
what I mean. So
figure.
why
Sounds
wouldn't you
cool.
guys want an excuse like once or twice a month to listen to a set, designated couple albums and then discuss them, good or bad. So that's basically what's going on with the schlock rock thing. We're doing that with Guar, with a Kiss first, excuse me, and then Guar and Mushroom Head will obviously follow, and lots of other bands. So
Yeah, I need to join you on that sometime when I got more energy.
That's pretty much what I got going on. So Schlockaholics and Retro Cult home video. Check me out. That's it.
Alrighty. Heading over to you, Tammy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you
do? Well, I'm David's fiance. I go on this group and another group and talk about the movies with everybody. I like hearing everybody's opinions and checking out movies that, for the most part, I like checking out movies I haven't seen before. It depends. Some of them I could leave behind. But I have my own collection, and that's really about it right now because now there's no more car shows.
do. Alrighty. And my name is David Streggy. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on this fantabulous journey. So far, it's looking to be an awesome month here on for you Galorians out there. But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where I also podcast with a group of people talking about various films as well. Kroll and Tammy are of those that come on with me, and we have some fun on Sundays. So definitely check out that channel. But I also do some video pickups and video reviews, but I also have some news. I've been working on a horror anthology of my own where I've gathered together a bunch of short films while filming some of my own and placing them all in one cool horror anthology called Tales of the Forgotten. So hopefully I'll be able to get more of that done and have a release come out this coming year and be able to get something out. At least something that I feel like
some music for that. If I'm
yes,
mistaken, so,
in fact, Mosley will show up on it at some point. So you'll have to do a "Where's Waldo" or "Where's Mosley" when you check it out. So, but thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. And we'll definitely be coming back and having a blast next week, Tuesday. Definitely not as much of a long haul as this night was, but we'll definitely be bringing something to the table. So, everyone, say good night.
Buonanotte.
Night, everybody.
Right, Jim Bob.
Mm-hmm.